Their breath came in short bursts. Fear pushed them forward. Behind them, the city stood silent for a moment, one last calm before the storm. Then it happened. A roar split the sky. Fire and burning sulfur rained down from above. Flames crashed against rooftops. Smoke rose in thick, black clouds. The ground shook beneath the weight of judgment. Buildings crumbled. Streets disappeared. The proud cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were swallowed by destruction. The air filled with heat and thunder. People screamed. Walls collapsed. Everything that once seemed strong and permanent vanished in an instant. Lot kept running. His daughters ran beside him, tears streaming down their faces. The mountains rose ahead like a promise of safety. But behind them, one heart was still tied to the past. Lot's wife slowed her steps. Memories pulled at her, her home, her friends, her possessions, her life in the city. The command echoed in her mind, "Do not look back." Yet curiosity whispered. Attachment tugged. Regret lingered. And in one small, tragic moment, she turned her head. She looked back at the burning city. Instantly, her body froze. Her movement stopped. She became a pillar of salt, standing silent in the desert, a lasting reminder of a divided heart. Lot cried out, but it was too late. The fire continued to fall. The cities disappeared beneath smoke and ash. The valley that once looked like a garden became a barren wasteland. Far away, on a hill overlooking the valley, Abraham stood watching. He had risen early that morning, his heart heavy with concern. As the sun climbed into the sky, he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah. What he saw made his chest tighten. Smoke rose from the land like smoke from a giant furnace. The beautiful valley was gone. The cities were gone. Only ashes remained. Abraham bowed his head in silence. He understood that God had acted with justice, but also with mercy. Though the cities were destroyed, God had remembered Lot. They pushed forward, furious and wild. Their hearts were hard, their minds filled with violence. The city had fallen deeper into darkness than anyone imagined. Then suddenly, the strangers reached out from inside the house. They pulled Lot back and shut the door. In an instant, the angry crowd outside was struck with blindness. Confusion spread among them. They stumbled in the darkness, unable to find the entrance. Inside the house, the strangers revealed the truth. They were not ordinary travelers. They were angels. "We are about to destroy this place," they said quietly. "The outcry against it has become so great before God. Gather your family and leave immediately." The words hit Lot like thunder. Destroy the city? Leave everything? His home, his friends, his possessions, gone in a moment? The angels urged him to hurry. Lot ran into the night to find his sons-in-law. He knocked on their doors, breathless and desperate. "Get up," he warned. "Leave this place. The city will be destroyed." But they laughed. To them, it sounded like a joke, a wild story, an impossible threat. They shook their heads and went back to their comfortable lives. Morning crept slowly over the horizon. The sky turned pale gray. Birds began to stir. The city yawned awake, unaware that its final hours had arrived. Inside the house, Lot hesitated. Fear tangled with doubt. His heart clung to the life he had built. Leaving felt painful. Starting over felt impossible. But the angels would not wait. They took hold of Lot's hands, and the hands of his wife and daughters, and led them out of the city. It was an act of mercy, a rescue born from God's compassion. As they reached the edge of the city, one command rang out clearly. Run for your lives. Do not look back. Do not stop anywhere in the valley. Escape to the mountains, or you will be swept away." The family began to run. Their feet pounded against the dusty ground. Again and again, Abraham asked, 40, 30, 20, 10. Each time, God responded with patience and mercy. "If I find 10 righteous people there," God said, "I will not destroy it." But deep inside, Abraham felt a quiet fear. What if there were not even 10? That same evening, as the sun dipped low and shadows stretched across the land, 2 strangers approached the gates of Sodom. They looked like ordinary travelers, dusty from the road. People passed by without noticing them. Some stared with suspicion. Others ignored them completely. But Lot saw them. He was sitting near the city gate, watching the crowd move in and out. Something about the strangers caught his attention. Maybe it was the calm in their faces. Maybe it was the sense of peace that seemed to follow them. Whatever it was, Lot felt a sudden urgency. He stood up quickly and walked toward them. "My lords," he said respectfully, bowing low, "please come to my house. Wash your feet. Rest for the night." The strangers hesitated. "No," they replied. "We will spend the night in the square." Lot's heart pounded. He knew the dangers of the city after dark. He knew how cruel the people could be. He pleaded with them again, his voice full of concern. Finally, they agreed. Lot led them through the narrow streets to his home. He prepared a simple meal. Bread baked in the oven. Water poured into cups. Lamps glowed softly against the walls. For a moment, the house felt peaceful. But outside, the city was waking to darkness. Soon, loud voices echoed down the street. Angry footsteps approached the door. Men gathered around the house, shouting and pounding on the wood. "Where are the men who came to you tonight?" they demanded. "Bring them out to us." Fear gripped Lot's chest. He stepped outside and closed the door behind him, trying to protect his guests. His voice shook as he pleaded with the crowd to stop, to turn away, to choose kindness instead of cruelty. But the mob only grew louder. They ignored the poor. They laughed at goodness. They chased pleasure without limits and treated others with cruelty. Pride filled their hearts, and selfishness guided their actions. They believed they needed no one, not even God. Lot saw these things. He felt the wrongness in the air. Yet day after day, he stayed. His family settled deeper into the city. The noise, the wealth, and the comfort made it harder to leave. Sometimes, the most dangerous place is not the one that looks frightening, but the one that looks easy. Years passed, and the city grew louder, richer, and more corrupt. Violence became common. Greed ruled the markets. Mercy disappeared from the streets. People stopped caring about right and wrong. They lived only for themselves. But God saw everything. He saw the tears of the weak. He heard the cries of the hurting. He felt the weight of injustice rising from the city like smoke from a fire. And because God is both loving and just, he could not ignore it forever. One day, far away under the open sky, God spoke to Abraham. "The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great," he said. "Their sin is very serious." Abraham's heart trembled. He thought of Lot, his nephew, his family, the man he once guided across deserts and mountains. Abraham knew the cities were wicked, but he also knew that innocent people might still live there. He stepped forward with courage and compassion. "Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked?" Abraham asked. His voice was humble, but his love was strong. "What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you destroy it and not spare the place for their sake?" God listened. "If I find 50 righteous people in the city," he replied, "I will spare the whole place for their sake." Abraham paused. He took a breath. His heart pushed him to ask again. "What if there are 45? God answered gently. I will not destroy it if I find 45. The night air over Sodom was thick and heavy, as if the city itself was holding its breath. Lights flickered in tall houses built of stone and pride. Music echoed through the streets. Laughter rang out from crowded rooms. People celebrated, traded, argued, and chased pleasure without a second thought. To them, life was good. The city was rich. The walls were strong. Tomorrow would be just like today. But far beyond the noise, beyond the glowing windows and busy markets, something unseen was stirring. Heaven was watching. And in the middle of that restless city lived a man named Lot. Lot was not born in Sodom. He had once traveled with his uncle Abraham, a man who walked closely with God. Together they had crossed dry deserts and wide plains, trusting that God would lead them to a better future. Abraham had been patient, humble, and faithful. But as their families grew and their flocks multiplied, the land became too crowded for both of them. So one day, Abraham gave Lot a choice. He stood on a hill and looked across the land. To one side stretched dry, rocky hills. To the other side spread a green valley, watered by rivers and shining like a garden. The valley was beautiful, rich, and full of promise. It was also where the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah stood. Abraham spoke gently. If you go to the left, I will go to the right. If you go to the right, I will go to the left. Lot looked at the valley again. He saw the fertile soil, the flowing water, the busy cities. He imagined wealth, comfort, and success. It seemed like the perfect place to build a future for his family. So Lot chose the valley. At first, everything seemed wonderful. His animals grew strong. His fields produced good crops. His tents turned into houses. His children played in the streets. Life felt easy. But slowly, quietly, something else began to grow in the city, something dark. The people of Sodom had forgotten kindness.